Nice. We're live.
We are
So
live.
for the
Hello, everyone.
viewers, yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
We're really happy to see you guys again. By the way, last time we tried this was our first time randomly taking a pass at it. Did not expect the response we received, and hoping to replicate that somehow. It was really nice that you all joined in. So आज भी हम ऐसी अच्छी मजे मजे की बातें करेंगे. Um,
और हमारी कोशिश
Yes.
यही होगी कि हफ्ते में एक एपिसोड तो हम एक मिनिमम पॉडकास्ट के तौर पे एक निकालेंगे बट आवर प्लान इज ऑब्वियसली टू एक्सपैंड फ्रॉम देयर आल्सो ट्राई टू डू इंडिविजुअल पैशन प्रोजेक्ट्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ टॉपिक्स दैट वी फाइंड इंटरेस्टिंग बट फॉर नाउ आई थिंक दिस इज अ टॉपिक दैट वी ऑल really wanted to talk about and I'm going to let Sitar take the lead on this to get us started.
Yeah. I think just to get started, so I think what I just wanted to say when we named it silly points, right? So yahi tha ke there's gonna be four people pretending to be somehow sports experts making extremely silly points, right? I actually didn't think only in week two we would be picking up a topic that has actually been very silly and how it transpired over the last 2 weeks. And if by now, if people watching cricket as a sport very closely have not figured out, we're going to be addressing the Handshake-gate and what ESPN Cricket Info has sort of coined it. But everything around it, what it means. But before we delve into it, because we understand इसका थोड़ा सा प्री कॉन्टेक्स्ट भी थोड़ा सेंसिटिव है the event itself is sensitive, so just want to sort of set the tone here, because we understand thoda sa, and even from the last audience, like people from all sides are listening to us and we want to be fair to them while also remaining honest to our views, right? So we're going to be try and staying as neutral or as objective and give really our honest take without sort of trying to exaggerate a particular perspective on it. Right, guys, anything to add on this?
no, but pretty much my thoughts.
No, that's yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we are all talking from a perspective of sporting angle here and not the political side of things. I think there's obviously a lot of deeper context as to why this has happened, but I think we are all of the opinion that sports should stay on the field. So yeah, I think in that context, let's start talking about it, I guess.
थोड़ा सा
uh,
slight bit more
yeah.
I think I'll be honest. I think the political context does feed into
Of course, yeah.
my understanding and my biases, so I'm not saying that uh, it won't be affected by my political belief of the situation also. I think that's a fair thing to say when you're saying that you're trying to be unbiased. The first
No, yeah,
bias
my
is
only the
natural.
only reason I meant to give, of course, you can't separate it. I just meant to say that I think we're not here arguing for who is right in the larger grand scheme of things. I think it's more
Yeah.
a question of this specific incident and whether we think it's right that it happened the way it happened in
Yeah,
the
fair,
confines of cricket.
fair.
Yeah, and for the audience, if you haven't figured out, all four of us are Pakistanis. So naturally, there is going to be some bias, which we're going to sort of try and keep away. If the last episode, me wearing a Pakistan shirt doing a preview, did not give exactly that away. But anyway, before we sort of start, right? As I think, and I echo all four of us here, right? That the incidents in the earlier in the year, right? Be it what happened to innocent civilians in the valley, and then the corresponding sort of counter and everything that led up to it, right? As people who generally believe that peace should be up the highest priority, right? So all four of us regret those incidents, and here just want to say that we're not going to be discussing those, right? We regret them and we wish they never happened. What we are going to be specifically focusing on is again what transpired on the sports field, and as fans of the sport, should it have happened, could it have happened in a better way, is what we are going to be primarily uh, focusing on. And I know when we talk about sports, there were certain sports persons, specifically on the national team, who made some posts which were, to be honest, as a fan of the team also, I found them distasteful. Should not, like,
नाम
public
लिए करो ना
personalities should
because
not have.
we're talking
Fair.
fully
So,
into it.
yeah, yeah. So I think I'm referring to, and I know there were others, but I'm referring especially to the Fahim Ashraf Instagram post,
100%,
right, about
100%. That was distasteful.
the who doing the whole Sindoor thing, right? That was like, as a public personality, like, I understand everyone has their opinion, and fair enough. It was a moment of sort of national crisis, and everybody was having a say. But
Hmm.
ultimately, I do believe that as public personalities, you have a
Who
certain amount
posted
of
that?
more responsibility.
Fahim Ashraf
Fahim,
shared a story, basically the name Sindoor, and they're like, "Acha, हमने ये कर दिया. But
Yeah, it
basically
was
all the
more like
creative plays you can come up with that name. There was a
That
it
was
was
image. There was
that
an
was
image
during
जिसमें
the
भाई.
Asia Cup.
No, no, this was during the
no,
war time that was
yeah.
happening.
Oh yeah, no, that was messed up. I mean, to be fair, I feel like that was a time when I think almost all of the big media personalities of both sides of the border had decided that it was in their hands to sort of win this war on social media. I think that was messed up. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, no
But
doubt about
also the
that. I
Sindoor rhetoric of like Sindoor laga diya, I, this was happening like
It has
all
rapey
sides actually.
connotations. Let's be
It's
very honest here.
absolutely 100%, 100%. But also like a
yeah,
lot of Indians were saying that too. Like it's interesting that we were also saying
Right.
that. I wouldn't
yeah.
assume that
No, no,
we were
I
Yeah.
saying that.
definitely
So
think this was a both sides of the border issue. I
Hmm.
definitely don't think that was just Pakistanis who were doing it,
Yeah,
though
but it's
no
just the
doubt they
rhetoric,
were doing it.
like Sindoor,
Ah, but
like
so,
you don't really hear that in Pakistan.
Abdul, I 100%. By the way, Abdullah, I think the line of differentiation is कि sure internet celebrities and famous people एक अलग वो है, but sporting personalities to have to do that,
Hmm.
especially इस topic पे हम touch upon भी करेंगे यार. Both of the at least the sporting sides they have a different kind of a rapport that they carry, which shouldn't sort of like the politics of it shouldn't bleed into the interpersonal
yeah,
relationships they have, right? Like
Yeah,
हमने लास्ट एशिया कप में जिस तरह की ब्रदरहुड देखी है जिससे बाय द वे दोनों साइडों को उस टाइम पे भी मिस होता है एंड आई अप्रिशिएटेड इट लाइक पीपल रियली हेट द होलसम काइंड ऑफ वाइब दैट team Kohli and team Babar had in 21, 22, 23. I think I really appreciated and enjoyed that.
yeah.
But sort of getting into
Mhm.
the events that sort of happened before the cup, I think I would like to echo what Satar said. Uh, Terrorism anywhere in the world is really bad, and I think as Pakistanis we have this unfair sort of क्या कहते
yeah,
हैं burden to always have to say it out loud, but we
Yeah,
also do not like terrorism and do not support
yeah,
it. And
yeah,
I think what happened in the Indian side of Kashmir was very unfortunate. The response to it was unfortunate, and everything that happened right after was also unfortunate. However,
yeah.
how that's leaked into sports is what we are here to talk about today. So I'll quickly jump into that. And I think from the get go, जिस भी साइड से रवैया है अब एक बहुत ही अंडरस्टूड सी ये बात है I think we should have skipped this Asia Cup. I think it shouldn't have happened this year because at the end of the day, it is a glorified Pakistan India series, and others also just
Yeah,
come to play.
and that's
And we
what it
saw
was. We
that
played thrice, bro. That's
we
exactly
played
what
them
it was.
thrice, right? This is ये वो like you wanna like when we're all teens and we wanna hang out with our significant other तो तीन चार दोस्तों को और भी साथ लेके आते हैं
I
ताकि
was about to bring
मम्मी
that,
अब्बा को बताना आसान हो कि हाँ वो सारे आ रहे हैं असल में मैं उसके साथ घूमने नहीं जा रहा
bro,
अकेला तो ये
bro,
हुआ है इस
bro.
एशिया कप
That
में.
is that is exactly what was in my mind. कि कॉलेज टाइम्स में क्या वो चार
that's
बंदा और
exactly
भी
right.
साथ है. बट what's interesting to me is like जैसे उस टाइम पे वो चार दोस्तों को पता होता था कि अच्छा हम यहाँ क्यों हैं, राइट, ताकि वो दो लोग मिल सके. आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इफ द बांग्लादेश एंड श्रीलंका एंड अफगानिस्तान बोर्ड्स रियलाइज कि हम ये क्यों खेल रहे हैं और दे थिंक यार नहीं यार टूर्नामेंट है हमें तो बहुत सीरियस लेना है और कुछ करना
अफगानिस्तान तो
है.
नहीं करता ब्रो, शायद कोई और खेल रहे. वो तो नहीं रहे, वो तो खुद खेलने आए थे, हम बीच में आ गए. इनको किसने बोला?
हाँ वो तो सेकंड बेस्ट टीम ऑफ एशिया थे ना वो तो
Second best
अपनी
team of
अलग
Asia.
उस पे आए थे
हाँ,
बट
Indeed.
या नो
हाँ,
जस्ट कैरिंग ऑन फ्रॉम दैट आई थिंक पहली बात जस्ट ऑन एशिया कप specifically I think that there were a lot of comments made by a lot of Indian commentators possibly even other countries that I can't remember but that this Asia Cup is almost pointless now because India is so far ahead of the rest of the teams
yeah,
and to be honest I don't want to admit that to be true but it almost proved itself true. And also, I think it's just become more and more of a fact. But we can go into the detail. We should probably do a separate episode on this general isolation that we've seen of, non-big three countries in terms of playing at the top level. Pakistan especially is isolated because you don't play IPL. So for T20 cricket and modern T20 cricket and all that stuff, I think we miss out on like the pinnacle of it, right? Like, um, so yeah, that's definitely the case, and I think that was the backdrop with this Asia Cup. Having said that, I think that regardless, I think it's a good tournament to play. I think it's a fun tournament. I think we've always enjoyed it, and I think maybe this year was a bit of an aberration, but I think mostly we've seen it to be more competitive than you would expect. Um, so
so
yeah, having said that, anyway, I think let's get into the real beef of
so
things.
on this, I would honestly say the quality and what how competitive the sport is, right? I would say that's a separate argument altogether. That's like
Mm.
in the years that Real Madrid was just walking everyone and winning Champions League. That's like saying, "Oh, Champions League ko band kara dete," right? So competitiveness is a whole different thing, right? And I think especially the final, right? Nobody can tell me the final was not worthy of a competitive final,
Yeah.
right? But in the leading up to the Asia Cup, so what Wamek was saying, we should not have played, and there was a lot of calls, by the way, on both sides of the border to boycott. I follow a lot of Indian pundits, journalists, sports experts, and all of them were calling out. Now, here's my fundamental problem with everything that led to what we are now calling as the Handshake-gate is so you have the power to say no, we're not going to boycott. And by the way, until July, it was like the BCCI or the Indian government will not be allowing it, right? I think only
Mm-hmm.
very late in the game was it announced that they're supporting. Okay, so great. Now you've decided you're going to go ahead. And the narrative, by the way, was that, okay, we're not going to play Pakistan in bilaterals, but uh, but we're going to play them in multi-nation tournaments, right? And
Yeah.
that was the argument that, oh, yeah, we're going because it's a multi-nation tournament. But here's
Yeah.
my sort of a bit of a problem that I have with it, right? Number one, had BCCI said we're not going to play, the tournament would 99% not have happened. You take away the Indian sponsors, the Indian media, and the audience. Oman and Bangladesh and Pakistan don't want to play, right? That's number one. Number two, if you had decided to proceed, how is it that magically, just like it happens in literally every tournament, India and Pakistan are in the same group, right? There was a very easy way to avoid it. Like Jai Shah and Mohsin Naqvi could just have sat in a
Exactly, bro.
room and said,
And Jaisha
"Ini
has won
mini
this
mino
before.
mo."
10 दफा move किया
So
है, finals move किए हैं. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and just to illustrate, before anyone says it was a global tournament, right? Last year World Cup T20 में, just so that the Indian fans had a fixed window. Indian matches were उनका stadium set था, उनके timing set थे, उनका ये तक set था कि regardless of सेमीफाइनल में कौन कौन पहुंचता है, इंडिया का सेमीफाइनल इस जगह पे इस टाइम पे होगा, right? And you can do that to a tournament where other big three like Australia, England, South Africa were there. So in a tournament where all the financial minnows of Asia were compared to you, I think it was very easily possible कि India Pakistan same group में नहीं होते, but
नहीं होता,
because
बिल्कुल.
but still ended up being there. फॉर्मेट आपने इस समय डिसाइड किया कि सुपर फोर में फॉर श्योर मिले. अच्छा, सेम ग्रुप थे, टॉप टू सेमीफाइनल्स में जाते, फिर डायरेक्ट फाइनल में मिलते, right? So there was a lot of ways, and why I'm illustrating this point is because there's a whole narrative being built कि ओ एशिया कप तो हमें खेलना ही था because it was multi-nation. It was not at all. It is more, and I think this is and I know a lot of people are seeing through this, and I hope more and more people continue to
Mm-hmm.
see through this, that this is just a facade that is created in lieu
Definitely want to play
of
the game,
the
for sure.
profits that BCCI wanted to take. Right? There was
Mm-hmm.
no other reason why this has
So
happened.
yeah.
So yeah, but before I continue, yeah, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, no, so I would just like to add a little context here. So I would say, firstly, on this idea of not playing each other and all that, I don't think realistically that there were any serious calls from Pakistan side to not play the match. The reason A, because, and I think what's important to understand here is that when you talk about match day revenue and just the idea of a Pakistan-India game and how much money there is to be made, I think the number was what, 10, $15 million that we Pakistan standard
Yeah,
stood to make from that match, which is a big amount for Pakistan. It's probably paltry amount that they can, that for India, in which I think they can completely ignore. They could have foregone that easily, especially if they had a genuine principal problem. So I think that the calls from a board side, I think लोग तो जब बातें करते रहेंगे, but on a board level, I think that the serious calls to not play the match were only came from India, not from Pakistan, which I think is fine. I think on a policy level also, I don't think PCB or the Pakistan government has any such policy of not playing against India as a result of political issues. I think if anything, we've maintained that we are happy to play India and we have no such issues. In fact, the whole controversy around the Champions Trophy last time being held in Pakistan and how Indian games would be outside of it, I think again, even that was an instant where we were happy to host them. It didn't end up
Yeah.
happening, and so
yeah,
I think as a response, Pakistan, argued that then we also don't want to play matches in India. Um, and then they scheduled all of
yeah,
these
yeah,
tournaments as such.
and then
So
further,
yeah,
like
and so
we only
sorry,
have to
just
go. Sorry, just a small
yeah, yeah,
preamble to this, and the evidence for that is that Pakistan did travel to the 2023 ODI World Cup,
correct,
right?
yeah,
So we were always happy to travel. I think what you mentioned as part of the Champions Trophy, India not traveling, वो पूरी agreement हुई थी कि okay, both nations
yeah,
will no longer travel to each other.
correct, yeah,
Sorry about that, please.
yeah. And so I think the ball was in India's court in terms of not playing that match. I don't think Pakistan had a problem with playing that match. In fact, if anything, I think the PCB is happy to always play that match. It's a payday. Why not? Uh,
Yeah.
Secondly, I think there's a huge, and what you said rightly, that the scheduling, how Pakistan and India always end up in the same group. That's not, there's no way that anyone's saying that that's a mistake. But having said that, I don't necessarily think this was a BCCI decision, or even an ICC decision. I mean, this is probably an ACC decision, probably taken by Mohsen Naqvi. So and I don't necessarily blame him for trying to maximize revenue of the tournament in general by allowing that to happen. I think having a group stage without a Pakistan-India match would have ran the risk of not having a Pakistan-India match at all if Pakistan didn't make it through or whatever.
Right.
So I get that on a business level. But having said that, I do think that it could have played out much better. But I mean, ultimately, kya hi hota? I think realistically, Pakistan, again, just to reiterate, we were undefeated against all teams but India, so we would have probably made it through. And
I can't believe you
and
keep
then we would
saying
have had the
this.
same problem in the Super Four. So I think we would have had this issue come about regardless, right? So I think it's less
Hmm.
relevant to discuss when we played each other. We would have played each other, if not even in the Super Four में तो खेलना
Mm-hmm.
ही था, but final में तो खेलते ही. And so ultimately,
So
I think
wouldn't
we would
bet
have
on
been in the
that, bro.
same.
We've never played a final together in the
We
ACC
just did.
tournament.
Yeah.
Before this, of course.
Uh,
Yeah.
This was the first ever.
Uh,
No, no, Abdullah, what I was trying to say to that point, right? So I know they probably would have met. What I'm trying to challenge is, this whole narrative of, okay, we will not shake hands, we will not do, like, basically the whole narrative was, acha, we are playing because we have to play, but we're not going to be nice about it, right? As a
yeah, I
pretext, मैं
agree.
बस ये set कर रहा हूँ कि you did not have to play them. Even if ACC set the groups, had BCCI said, yeah, okay, we're going to come to Dubai, we're going to play this tournament, provided हम same group में पाकिस्तान में नहीं. In
No,
what
no,
world does
and
the ACC not agree to that?
yeah,
I
and I would actually take it further than that, Siddharth, because what I was building up to was I think that India not only has the monetary clout and the ability to say we don't want to play this match, but they even have the assuredness of knowing that they can boycott a
Yeah.
match against Pakistan, give away the points, and still be comfortably a successful side in that tournament.
Precisely.
There was no doubt about it, right? Like there was no
Boys,
apprehension that they should have had on this issue. I think if they had a principal case कि हम terrorists के
Yeah.
खिलाफ नहीं खेलेंगे, तो फिर नहीं खेलना चाहिए था यार. और अगर खेल रहे हो आप, then I think then to say that we're going to play, but we're not going to shake hands. We're later we
Yeah.
found out not going to accept the trophy from a Pakistani, and some weird stuff about at the toss not giving an interview to a Pakistani. All this stuff is so unnecessary. And I genuinely think that if it was not India, okay, and it was Bangladesh or Afghanistan or some other country doing it, I think we would have seen statements across the
mm-hmm.
board if Pakistan was doing
Everywhere.
it
Mm-hmm.
from
Yeah.
everyone in the world condemning it. I think we would have seen a lot of the Indian media condemning it, saying this is
Yeah.
unsportsmanlike behavior, this,
Mm-hmm.
that, especially the champions of sportsman spirit, in Australia and England, who will usually raise their voice every time there's an issue and it comes to Mankad. Um, but just complete silence, and I think that's mainly because of obviously India's monetary prowess. I'm sure a lot of Indians aren't happy to hear this, but I think this is just a simple reality that we have to accept. The most unfortunate part of this, though, was that I think the players, the people who aren't actually representing their politicians, right? They're like the players of Pakistan or the players of India are probably not like, BJP and PMLN fanboys or whatever, or representing their policies or whatever that happens on a global scale. So ultimately, to make them the sort of messengers, I mean, these are not spokespeople you send to the UN to represent your country. These are sportsmen who don't have that training, who aren't there to do that job. And most sports, in fact, I'm even willing to go so far as to say that the current Indian team who chose to do this would off camera, be completely fine with Pakistanis.
I want to
I
butt
think,
in here, Abdullah.
yeah, go
That's
ahead.
I feel
so.
like, by the way, I think there is a difference. What Surya's entire persona was throughout the tournament is not something we would have seen in the worst years of Virat Kohli as well. I think there is a
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
definite difference in the amount of sportsmanship because देखो, let's not kid ourselves. हमारे इंडिया से ताल्लुक पिछले को 15 साल में भी at no point were they good.
Yeah.
Like 2017 perhaps 2017 PMLN हुकूमत में उस वक्त थोड़ा सा था, but I think उसके बाद से it's been pretty bad. 2019 उरी वाला पूरा scene हुआ
Post
था, so there was an
2009.
entire, and so I mean you could say
नहीं
this
बीच में
about
मोदी भी
Virat and
आया ना यहाँ
Babar.
पे ब्रो.
बीच में क्या कहते हैं बुमराह, yeah, even Bumrah, like I think there is and I'm getting slightly political here even though we said we weren't, but I feel like there is some amount of क्या कहते हैं moral deterioration that you can very clearly see on the other side of the border, because these are the same people. Bumrah and Shaheen exchanged gifts when Bumrah's
Mhm.
son was born, or either Shaheen's son was born. I can't remember that exactly. The same thing, the same was the case on our women's side, but we're like just within the span of 3 weeks, we've seen all of the Indian side, be it their captain, be it their women's team, be it the same Bumrah. Uh, they are sort of getting into this how do I say this? I felt like there is clear moral deterioration on their end within these years. I think the squad that was there 2 years ago would not have done this, but I'm not surprised to see Surya doing this. And I'm not because यार देखो एक ना unfair हमारे ऊपर burden एक तो already हर चीज के लिए apologetic होने का रहता है, लेकिन दूसरा इसका कि impartial होने का रहता है. They are bringing politics inside it. They're definitely. I'm equally calling out Haris Rauf for doing
Exactly.
all
That's
of
what I
that
was
stupid
thinking
shit.
about.
I think that was
Yeah,
stupid. That was my
100%.
That
first
was,
comment when I saw that. I think
yeah,
this
I
is
agree.
unnecessary. This is a sporting ground. Shouldn't be doing that
unnecessary,
stuff.
no point of it. And he was intentionally just करना ही उसको था, ऑडियंस को बस उसको भड़काना था,
And
उसको
यार
मीम्स
out of
बनाने थे.
everybody ना, like तुम अपनी performance देख के हरकत करो ना, मतलब
नहीं नहीं मैं नहीं नहीं, वो अलग बात है,
बुमराह वो
वो
फिर
भी
you
अलग.
know
परफॉर्मेंस जो भी हो, ये करना ये सही नहीं था. परफॉर्मेंस अगर
नहीं
वो
नहीं
अच्छी
नहीं
भी
नहीं
करता.
कि अगर तुमने फजूल हरकत करनी है, गिरी हुई हरकत करनी है, तो तुम किसी ऐसी पोजीशन से करो कि जहां पे हम बोलेंगे यार तू इंसान थोड़ा सा घटिया है लेकिन ठीक है, वी लव यू टाइप. Like you know how the liberals in India can probably still reason with Bumrah doing
Yeah.
this, because they're like, yeah, at least you ripped through them, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I mean, we have no sort of defense. And so I think there's a clear Abdullah. I don't buy
But
into that belief कि उनको अब ये करना पड़ रहा है या they are becoming the messengers. I think
but
this set of 11 people, or I don't know how many of them,
नहीं नहीं,
at
this is
least the
हाँ, yeah,
captain,
yeah, yeah.
100% wanted to do all of that.
Just
They're
before we move
actively
on,
choosing to
Mamu,
be this way, bro. This
I
मतलब
would
it's
just like
yeah,
to say on
absolutely.
this कि you're right. And responsibility आप उनसे दूर तो नहीं कर सकते. Ultimately, they are the ones choosing to do what they're doing on the field, especially if you're a captain like Surya who's going on and giving conferences. But I think ultimately for them and for sportsmen in general, I think if you know that the powers that be have given you specific instructions to behave a certain way, look, the reason I don't put the ultimate responsibility on them is because I think players will sort of mirror whatever you ask them to do in that sense. And I think
yeah,
maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they shouldn't. That's a whole different debate. But I think ultimately, like and Surya Kumar Yadav was very clear about it when he came out in a press conference and said that this was a BCCI instruction from us, a policy that we had pre-decided. We are not going to shake hands at the toss, and we're not going to shake hands after the match, which is why it was then called and communicated to Pycroft and all that, which by the way again was handled so poorly. I think if this had to happen,
yeah,
this should have been something that the BCCI should have called and informed the ACC. It should have been known well in advance.
Official
Salman
statement on
Aga
Twitter, all of these
Salman Aga
things.
and the Pakistan team management should have been
Agree.
told well in advance that this is happening so that we
Mhm.
avoid these sort of embarrassing circumstances. And ultimately, I think like the reason I don't want to single out people and say oh, it was his fault or that or her fault, because I think ultimately they were out of control in the situation. I think you can be politically anti-Pakistan. Okay, Surya Kumar Yadav may personally feel that Pakistan is a terrorist country, whatever. But I am sure that he does not actually think that Sahibzada Farhan, Haris Rauf, Shaheen Shah Afridi, and क्या कहते हैं, Muhammad Haris are the ones who are going and doing the Pahalgam attack, right? Like, there's no way you think
100%.
that on any level. So
Yeah.
I mean, to
I
not
mean,
to so I genuinely believe, and we saw this in the pre-tournament meeting या जो भी हुई थी. They shook hands, they were fine, there was no such major issue. And so, I mean, I think clearly this was a policy change that happened on a higher level that was then sort of filtered down.
I
वो
see what
वैसे
you
that's
ही
on
mean.
this only.
बुमराह
I
के
see
लिए
what you mean,
वैसे
because I
बॉयज
think
बॉयज
there's
बॉयज
a
बॉयज बुमराह के लिए वैसे एक जेन्युइन टेररिस्ट फील्ड पे था, वो था साहिबजादा फरहान, द टेरराइजर ऑफ बुमराह. दैट पार्ट आई फील लाइक एक बंदे को मैं अंडरस्टैंड करता हूँ. बाकी हाँ एग्जैक्टली आई
But
look
एग्री.
at these Pakistanis, they
just
talk
to
about their
circle,
their
just to circle back to what Abdullah was saying, yeah, so this was rather interesting for me, right? So just want to go back to that point. कि, अच्छा, as a board and as a government, you decided कि अच्छा खेल रहे हैं और सीन ऐसी बनाना है कि पाकिस्तान से 3 दफा खेल लें, बट समहाउ अपनी पब्लिक को ये भी बताना है कि वी वर फोर्स्ड इनटू इट, चलो ठीक है अब आप बढ़ गए आगे। But even then, I think when the tournament started, there was no understanding कि ये सब होगा. I think this was an evolving situation, and this evolved because I was following a
Mm-hmm.
lot of on Twitter. When the presser happened, right? The captains were pretty amicable to each other.
Yeah.
Right? Surya to the ACC president, जिससे बाद में इतना बड़ा इशू हो गया सबको, was very amicable towards him. They were shaking hands, they were exchanging conversations, right? But then when this all went back home and it all blew up, then I think the policy sort of evolved. अच्छा यार, वो जो हमने बात बेची है ना घर पे कि हम तो ये तो जबरदस्ती खिलाया जा रहा है somehow, वो बिकी नहीं है इतनी क्योंकि हम इतना हंस हंस के मिल रहे हैं, तो might as well हमें इसको भी टोन डाउन करना पड़ेगा।
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, so it was not something जो बहुत पहले प्री डिसाइडेड था। I think बस मैच से कुछ दिन पहले डिसाइड हो गया, एक दिन पहले डिसाइड हो गया होगा अच्छा यार ये तो घर पे थोड़ा बैड सीन हो रहा है, तो हमें इस तरह करना पड़ेगा। And again, I just want to go back to that point. This was all an attempt to somehow sell the thing back home कि यार हम मॉरल हाई ग्राउंड रख के बैठे हैं और बस जबरदस्ती हो रहा है, एंड वी आर ट्राइंग एवरीथिंग दैट वी कैन टू यू नो टू इंश्योर के कोई भी किसी तरह के फ्रेंडली रिलेशनशिप्स ना हो।
And bro,
Yeah.
मतलब there was actually kind of no point of it because home पे वो चीज ऑलरेडी बिकी हुई थी bro. The day इन्होंने पूरा फसाद गिराया कि नहीं नहीं हम बाबा, उसी दिन स्क्रीनिंग लगी, लोग पहुंच गए, सब तैयार बैठे थे जैसे हाँ ये तो बस होने वाला है, ये तो सारे सपने जाके देखना है, no one was like fucking yeah यार ये एकदम से कैसे, oh how are we changing our policy about this and that. So I feel like absolutely this was all a scam. And even in this case, let's assume chalo Pakistan, opposite reaction, Pakistan बोलता है we're not playing. Would the Asia Cup be fucking any point to India if Pakistan is not playing? Like they already complain about having no competition. Asia की best, second best team तुम्हारे सामने है. And it's not going to earn them also the same revenues if assuming that they care about it, which they do because that's how they
Yeah.
remain powerful
वैसे
again these
on
days.
that
अच्छा
Subbu,
this
I do think कि Pakistan, that was also a silly move. That whole saga
Mm-hmm.
of
Which one?
us complaining about Pycroft and then threatening to not play the match.
yeah, that
Yeah,
was
देखो,
pretty
I
silly.
think in that scenario, if you want to take a
Even Mohsen
principled stand,
Naqvi of
then
what's
yeah, then have the balls to take the stand and say we are not playing. All right, we have an
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
issue, and the issue should not have been about Pycroft. It should not have been, simply because Pycroft was put in a difficult spot himself. Realistically, at least that's my opinion. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you can argue that technically maybe he was wrong. He should have reported it further to the
Mm-hmm.
ICC first before. But I mean, his claim was that he barely had like a minute or two to make that decision because he was informed immediately, like just before the toss was taking place. And in his opinion, he had told Salman Agha not to shake hands to save Salman Agha the embarrassment of extending his hand and Surya Kumar going this. So, so I think. So I think in that regard, I think it was probably, I guess, in the moment, probably
Mm-hmm.
the right call to make from Pycroft's side. And I think we tried to find some technicality on which we could have some sort of high ground. But I think ultimately what we should have said was, yeah, if we're playing against a team who wants to politicize the game, then we don't want to play. The problem with that obviously becomes that we are in such a difficult economic position that we cannot forego $10-15 million at the drop of a hat
Mm-hmm.
because we want to take
Mm-hmm.
a principled stand. Maybe we should.
And
Maybe that's a discussion
yeah,
we should have.
No,
But
that is
ultimately,
वैसे
yeah.
एक बात पता है क्या about the politicization of the sport, it is also absolutely not okay that the PCB chairman and all of these person is also the interior minister in Pakistan. Like that also on its own
Oh yeah.
is like a
Yeah, देखो, I think
completely
yeah,
like it's
what
just मतलब
as
the only thing worse कोई
Pakistanis,
पता है क्या होगा कि कोई लेफ्टिनेंट कर्नल को बिठा के लोग PCB को,
ये भी हो
which
जाएगा एक
honestly is
दिन.
not हाँ is not so far, it's not so far.
It's not
what
so
yeah,
far.
yeah,
I
it's
think
not
exactly
very
is
far.
ultimately ये देखो, ये this is a very well known long term issue. पाकिस्तान का patron select, sorry, PCB का patron
Hmm.
जो है वो होता ही Prime Minister of Pakistan है, and all appointees of the chairman
Why does the
of the
Prime
board
Minister of Pakistan need to do
are
this? Like
essentially always political, right? And
लेकिन
you'll
मुझे
see
ये
every
बताओ
time a party will change,
हाँ
the
the
chairman will change.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
So,
saying
yeah,
the
and
person
and
who was
I
just
would like to
revolving
make it clear that is messed up. I think that has ruined our
different.
cricket, honestly. I think
Mhm.
that's and by the
yeah,
way, I
yeah,
think
yeah.
none of us here are fans of Mohsin Naqvi. Before
Yeah,
this tournament, we didn't
and
like him.
especially
After this tournament, we still don't like him
yeah.
because
But I do want
ultimately
to say one thing.
You-
yeah.
I do want to just one thing that brings me joy is that कि जितनी लीचड़ हरकतें ये बीसीसीआई ने की उनको उतना ही लीचड़ बंदा मिल गया, उतना ही कचरा आदमी उनके सामने हमने खड़ा कर
honestly
दिया है,
I am
अब
with
तुम
Subbu
लोग
on this
खेलोगे गेम सही है
because
लेकिन
इससे
करो
पहले ना हम सब ने बहुत साल गुजारे हैं ये बोल बोल के कि ये जेशा कितना लीचड़ आदमी है, ये क्या हरकतें कर रहे हैं. I it's
कभी
a
कुछ
little
नहीं
bit
बदला
better that this time the person in front of him is just as leacher. But I think I want to say this
शीशा
simply
खड़ा
this
कर दो
तुमने भी
सामने, अब
बोला
लड़ो bro.
पॉलिटिकल इन्वॉल्वमेंट पे जिम्बाब्वे, साउथ अफ्रीका सबने बैन फेस किया हुआ, आई थिंक इवन वेस्ट इंडीज,
Yeah.
how have they not figured out the fact, and I think this all circles back to the one thing, जितना भी इंडियंस हमसे नफरत करने और आईसीसी इज इक्वल टू बीसीसीआई जितना भी हो जाए, the one thing they can never do is remove Pakistan outside of the situation, because no matter how much they hate us, that's how they make their money. That's how we are always in
हाँ
the same
हाँ
groups. That's how
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
इंडिया पाकिस्तान, एंड ये अभी भी नीचे आके
100%.
हमारे कमेंट्स में शायद लोग बोलेंगे
Yeah.
भिखारी ये वो, तुम लोग को जितना बोलना है बोलो, लेकिन पैसा छापने तो आना पड़ेगा ना बॉस, क्या करोगे?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to be honest, Vamu, you're right. लेकिन शायद नहीं भी आना पड़ेगा यार. Like, I mean, if you think about it, India plays England, India plays Australia. They sell out matches for tests for 5 days. Yeah, like realistically speaking, India does not need us as a market to sell cricket. They are already making billions, right? And they are making so much money that no other board is within even what, like a tenth of it? Like it's not
Yeah,
even
no
close.
reaching distance.
So I think realistically and I think this is actually more to their detriment. कि मतलब you had the option, you could have taken that principle stand. And to be honest, in terms of selling a narrative back home or selling a narrative even globally, they would have been much more successful if they had simply said we're not going to play Pakistan, full stop.
Yeah.
And by the way, I would just like to note that you can't say we're not going to play Pakistan and make it so that uh, Pakistan and India share one point. No, you have to take the L and forfeit that match and give up the points to Pakistan, um, and they'd be fine. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
I
them.
I see the
I think.
argument that you're making, but I think this still like, you can't deny the kind of impact from a very
Yeah.
capitalist standpoint, right?
Yeah,
Like तुम्हें
bigger
मार्केटिंग
than
पे
Super
कुछ भी
Bowl.
स्पेंड ना करना पड़े पाकिस्तान वर्सेस इंडिया में, जितना तुम्हें पाकिस्तान वर्सेस सॉरी इंडिया वर्सेस इंग्लैंड पे तुम मार्केटिंग पे खर्चा करो, तुम
Mm-hmm.
ये करो वो करो, आई थिंक इट्स सच एन इजी सेल, इट्स
Correct.
सच अ इट्स द
Yeah.
मनी इज राइट देयर काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन दैट they, I mean, if we were in their situation, and you just talked about it, I think if Pakistan had the kind of ability to be able to drop out on 10, 15 millions, I think we should definitely be taking that
Mm-hmm.
क्या
Absolutely.
कहते हैं, principal standpoint, and I think so should they, but they don't take that, and I think that says something about them.
No,
And it's absolutely, there's no two ways about it, about the fact that playing to, like, it's not just playing with Pakistan that's going to make them money, and it's not that's what just making them money, because they're making money anyway. लेकिन कोई तो factor है, bro, because like, I mean, I do think that if Pakistan were to be touring India, we would sell easier with less whatever
100%.
cost,
यार
yeah,
cost
उनका
of
of course,
उनका
acquisition,
पूरा जो
like
there's
मशीनरी
zero
है,
doubt
जो
about
yeah,
that.
मार्केटिंग मशीनरी
कुछ
वगैरह is
मतलब
not just
इंग्लैंड सेल आउट वेल आउट कर
You
देगा,
guys.
लेकिन लिटरली ब्रो ये प्री सेल्स में सेल आउट कर देगा,
So,
भाई
so
and
मिनटों में देते हैं,
you
और ये
guys.
भी
I mean, and I
You,
guess that's an example of some sort of like like a moral
so
stance that they're
you
taking कि चलो पाकिस्तान तो नहीं बुला.
you guys do know na the test match, the total 5 day sum of attendance record is not Ashes, it's not Border Gavaskar, it's in fact Pakistan India Eden Gardens 1999. About I
Exactly.
think 475,000 people across 5 days showed up. So
That's
it's
crazy,
always
that's
going to
man.
be the
but
biggest numbers game.
and I think the selling point, I think from a capitalist point is very easy to see, right? All of us, like, not saying both sides of the border are exactly the same, but I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
all of us know hundreds of people who will never turn on the TV unless it's Pakistan India.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I'm sure it applies there also. There will be fans जो कि कहते हैं यार ऑस्ट्रेलिया से तो क्वालिटी क्रिकेट होती है, इंग्लैंड वाली सीरीज was the thing, but then there will be millions who will just turn it on क्योंकि आज पाकिस्तान से मैच है. But I think what Abdullah was trying to say is that uh, हमारे लिए वो 15 million छोड़ देना was a much bigger deal than it was for
100%.
BCCI,
No two
right?
ways about it, bro.
Uh, and see, ultimately, by the way, हमने by the way कभी stance नहीं लिया था after the May
Hmm.
incidents कि हम नहीं खेलेंगे, right?
Mm-hmm.
एक साल तो
कभी भी नहीं लिया
हमने नहीं
हमने,
बोला
I
वो
think.
कभी भी नहीं लिया है,
सामने
दिस
वाला
इज देयर
टेररिस्ट
पॉलिसी
Never.
स्टेट है.
काफी टाइम
No
से.
आया.
तो तो आपने पॉलिसी बनाई है कि यार वो टेररिस्ट स्टेट है, उतने गंदे बच्चे हैं, उनके साथ नहीं खेलना हमें, सही है. एंड देन so I think वही था कि and then you had very little to lose. So वो I think वो start पे तो we have discussed, but I also want to talk about ये जो politicizing was done from the PCB, जो पूरा Pycroft and the whole boycott etc. scenario था. I think that's what PCB was also taking a sort of a leaf out of BCCI वो क्या अच्छा यार हमारे साथ इतनी नाइंसाफी हुई है कि अब हम जाके उन्हें भी एक नैरेटिव बनाना था, right? And I think that's what the attempt was. Pakistan was never seriously gonna boycott it, right? बिल्कुल भी हमने ऐसा नहीं करने वाले थे.
Awesome.
बस वो एक बनाने की कोशिश की गई, सामने वाले ने ब्लफ कॉल किया, एक आपको चिपकाई गई एक चीज कि ओहो पाइक्रॉफ्ट हैज अपोलोजाइज. इवन द फैक्ट हमने वो बाय द वे बड़े स्मार्ट बन के हमने वो प्री मैच वीडियो भी बना दी थी और इंस्टाग्राम पे लीक कर दी थी, पाइक्रॉफ्ट अपोलोजाइजिंग टू हसन, और वो
जिसमें
बड़े
ऑडियो नहीं थी.
कन्वीनियंटली वीडियो ऑडियो नहीं थी. हाँ. तो बना लो जो भी बनाना है. वो क्या कहते हैं, अपनी बहन का रिश्ता मांगने आया था फॉर ऑल वी कैन सर्टिफाइड टू दैट. तो but I think beyond that, right? But and then what I saw during the Asia was कि जब ये हैंडशेक वाली चीज हुई ना, तो फिर उन्होंने कहा अच्छा यार ये तो घर पे काफी चीज बिक गई है, हाउ अबाउट वी कीप टेकिंग इट टू द नेक्स्ट लेवल, राइट? फिर एक लेवल अप आया कि अच्छा हम प्री ट्रॉफी फाइनल की वो नहीं करेंगे. Right now, the problem that I have with this is basically two captains of two different countries standing aside, nobody hugging or shaking hands or anything. It's just standing, taking a picture, which is pretty much what you're doing at the toss also, right?
Yeah.
But then वो
Yeah.
था कि अच्छा हम next level पे कैसे लेके जा सकते हैं, तो टॉस तो बॉयकॉट नहीं कर सकते, आप पिक्चर्स पे कर लेते हैं. फिर उन्होंने कहा अच्छा यार एक और लेवल कैसे लेके जाते हैं कि पिछले 2 मैचेस में शास्त्री was good enough to sort of view the toss from both ends, but final के लिए वकार और शास्त्री खड़े होंगे, स्काई वकार से बात नहीं करेगा और
Was that
आगा
our call? I
Okay, see,
didn't understand that.
no, it was their call, and they also refused to talk to a neutral
Yeah.
man. That what the hell?
No, I don't
yeah.
understand.
तो ये भी
Acha, but so
For
I
the
think
first
this
two
is dangerous
tosses, it was
territory.
Shastri.
I think the second one was for sure Shastri. First one I don't remember, but I think because Shastri hosted pretty much all the tosses,
Mhm.
so I think
So I didn't understand. We didn't. I don't. I mean, did we have the
We
issue
didn't
of
say
not talking to
no,
Shastri?
no.
I'm sure India
We
did.
didn't
No, we
say
didn't.
we didn't say anything. Now I don't know when
So then why was Waqar brought in? Or was
yeah,
it that Waqar
I
was
think
supposed to do
maybe
it and
Waqar
then
exactly. Maybe Waqar was already planned.
Waqar was supposed to do it, or somebody
Mhm.
was supposed to do it, and the proposal by the way was also कि एक neutral कर ले भाई, अच्छा दोनों की
Exactly.
कोई favoritism नहीं
Hmm.
Koi
होती.
nahi, हाँ,
And BCCI said no, we will
no.
only talk to in India.
Now this is
So
Why?
where it gets too ridiculous because you can,
Why?
in whatever fucked up world, however politicized, you have a problem with the Pakistani. You cannot say I will only talk to an Indian and
हाँ,
political
Exactly.
भी नहीं
No.
चलेगा.
like
ये तो
हाँ,
हद पार
मतलब
हो गई ना.
कोई ऑस्ट्रेलियन
नहीं,
इंग्लिश कुछ भी खड़ा कर
was this
सकते
an
थे.
official statement?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was done
This was
कि
like
मतलब it was
widely
certified
spoke.
कि Pakistan will only talk to Pakistani, Indian will only talk to an
No,
Indian.
But
Widely
But on
that's
the
what
I
I'm trying
do
to
know that
understand. If the
widely
default
spoken
was
about.
Shastri, why would India have a problem? I'm not
There is
getting
no
it.
reason to believe the default was Shastri. Now the first 2 matches we're saying was
I
Shastri. The
don't.
third match maybe Wasim Akram
ये बात
or
हाँ,
Waqar Yunus were decided to do it.
ये
But
बात स्टैब्लिश नहीं हुई थी कि थर्ड में who was the default option.
yeah,
Okay.
All we
which
know
All
is
right.
that there was a problem, a
mhm.
neutral was recommended, it was rejected, and the outcome was कि अच्छा अपने अपने बॉयज से बात कर लो.
That's so
And
weird,
then
यार.
That is so weird,
that's what I'm
man.
trying to say कि पहले आपने वही ना, अगर if I just go back and link the whole thing कि पहले आपने कि जबरदस्ती खिलाया जा रहा है, अच्छा वो, लेकिन फिर आप फ्रेंडली हो गए थोड़ा ज्यादा, घर पे वीडियोस चली गई तो प्रॉब्लम आ गया, फिर आपने कहा अच्छा यार अब हैंडशेक नहीं करना, फिर आपने कहा चाहिए तो फिट बिक रहा है, एक लेवल आप पिक्चर नहीं लेते, फिर एक और लेवल आप अच्छा आप बात भी नहीं करेंगे, फिर एक फाइनल बॉस जो आया इस पूरे सिनारियो का कि हम ट्रॉफी भी नहीं लेंगे हमसे, विच वाज बाय द वे नेवर द स्टांस जो आपने प्री टूर्नामेंट कुछ भी लिया हो. That was an evolving situation. You basically, I think they were just thinking around and saying कि how can we sell a story much better back home, और किसी एक ने आइडिया बेच दिया कि अच्छा यार एक काम करते हैं ट्रॉफी तो पंगा डालते हैं बॉयज, which was by the way I felt a huge uh, sort of disservice to the Indian fans, right? We all saw the match feed, and I think the crowd was 90% Indians. So about 20,000 Indians have spent a good chunk of money and made the huge effort. I've watched a match in Dubai, so I know watching a match there is a huge effort to get there and stay the whole thing. और आपने करे, and कितने लोग होंगे अपनी लाइफ टाइम में एक अपने कंट्री को लाइव इन फ्रंट ऑफ देम एक मल्टी नेशन टूर्नामेंट जीतते हुए देखेंगे, एंड देन टर्न्स आउट के they never got to see the trophy lift. So I felt like that was a huge disservice also to the
Mhm.
fans that were present there.
Didn't think of that.
Yeah. But honestly, if I were an Indian fan, I wouldn't have cared. Just because who cares about the
I mean,
actual trophy,
And
honestly. But I mean, that's not the point.
I
I
don't
think
think
just
they
the
do
idea of
actually.
it is,
Like
yeah,
in
yeah.
fact, did you guys see that there was an entire about like when Aga Salman took his check, whatever, big card, and then he sort of
Yeah,
like tossed it behind him. And
Yeah,
I
when he was
think
what
that
walking
was
off
was
that
the
about?
that was a mountain out of a molehill. I think players, by the way, if you watch these ceremonies, they are always tossing the thing aside because वो actually घर थोड़ी लेके जाते हैं, बैग में फिट भी नहीं आएगा.
by
It's
the way,
not
वो
an
real
actual
check
check.
भी नहीं होता पता. Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
so
They
I
get to
do
a
think
bank, no one's getting anything.
normally what happens is that there's somebody there, like an usher or someone, to take it from them and go to the side. But I think in this case, I think he just threw it because he probably couldn't see someone. I don't necessarily think that was like an angry reaction to anything. I think
Yeah.
that was, yeah, blown out of proportion a little bit. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I definitely don't think it was.
But
मेरे तो
Absolutely
ख्याल से
not.
I
बॉय ने
think
भरम कराए थे.
बट ये नहीं,
so,
बट
but I
ये
think,
भरम ही नहीं थे ना कोई.
but I
हाँ
think,
ये बस
okay,
उसके
मतलब
but
फजूल
चलो.
था फजूल था बट आई थिंक
हाँ.
हाँ तो वही.
अच्छा, अब now I also the thing is what I'm also seeing, and I want to get your opinion on this is कि अच्छा चलो अब जो होना था हो गया, सारा एशिया कप वगैरह हो गया, सही है. Two things I want to discuss. एक तो ये जो अभी तक ट्रॉफी चोर is now the official term being used.
हैंडशेक गेट के बाद ट्रॉफी
So,
छोड़ के.
like a cheap sequel to a Bollywood movie. Uh, and but before that, तो ट्रॉफी वाली बात पे करेंगे. But I think for me personally, it's also been disappointing कि अच्छा वो जो पूरा खेल था ना वो बिक गया, इतना अच्छा बिका कि now अब वो कैरी ओवर भी हो रहा है, राइट. अब ये भी स्टैब्लिश हो गया है कि वुमेन्स ओडीआई वर्ल्ड कप में वो लोग हैंडशेक नहीं करेंगे, राइट. अब ये
Yeah,
भी स्टैब्लिश हो
honestly.
गया बाय द वे कि आई थिंक द हॉकी लीग और समथिंग नाउ. अच्छा, पाकिस्तान ने अब ड्रामे शुरू कर दिए, राइट. तो पाकिस्तान हॉकी फेडरेशन ने बोल दिया है कि यार वो जो हॉकी लीग हो रही है ना, जिसके लिए हम पहले से जा रहे थे, महीनों पहले से सारा कुछ हो चुका था, अब सडनली हमें डर लगने लगा है, राइट. तो हम नहीं जा रहे,
Yeah.
एंड which
अच्छा
paints me
नहीं
towards
दैट
a much
आई सी.
darker side. Yeah,
मैं कह रहा हूँ थोड़ी सी वैलिड बात तो है कि अगर वो नोटिस कर रहे हैं, आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन मे बी व्हाट दे मीन कि अगर अब इतनी गर्मा गर्मी हो रही है तो अब हमें थोड़ा सा अनसेफ फील हो रहा है. आई थिंक दैट बिट इज फेयर इनफ टू से.
I mean, yeah, I suppose, but these
yeah.
decisions are
चलो,
generally
but
based on like audits और
चलो
बहुत ज़्यादा चीजें होती है क्योंकि
जरा.
मतलब अगर उनकी सिक्योरिटी उनको बोल रही है कि नहीं ऐसी सही है बट
चलो ये आफ्टर मैच पे आई थिंक एक एक पूरा बॉक्स खोलेंगे, बट एक थोड़ा
या
कलेक्टिव व्यू मार लेते हैं ट्रॉफी चोर एपिसोड पे
ओह
कि
अल्लाह
क्या थॉट्स हैं. फिर वापस आते हैं आफ्टर मैच पे.
ब्रो दो तीन थॉट्स है मैं आई गो फर्स्ट इज दैट ओके
Please go ahead.
हाँ.
थॉट नंबर 1 वो जो पिक्चर है वो नकवी की इन दिस बेड विद द क्रो आई लव दैट पिक्चर I love it so much. Second thing that I really enjoy is when all of these Indian like Instagram people and whatnot at the stadium are posting the picture with like emoji of a trophy, like they're achieving something. I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
that is just oh my god. और तीसरा जो स्काई भाई ने जो हमारे एक इंटरव्यू दिया था स्काई भाई जो बोलता है कि मैं अपनी जिंदगी के करियर में जिंदगी में पहली दफा देख रहा हूँ एक विनिंग टीम से ट्रॉफी रखी जा रही है और ये उसने बोला है मैच के एक दो दिन बाद उस वक्त मोहसिन नकवी ने अपनी पिक्चर पर ना फुली स्टार्ट नहीं किया था अभी वो बस थोड़ा ट्रॉफी आगे पीछे हुई थी अभी हमें उसकी
Did
इंटेंशन
he
नहीं
say
पता
that in the
थी
post-match conference, press
या
conference?
या लिटरली वो से
Yeah,
मतलब
yeah.
Oh, that was like an hour
indeed he was.
later.
Yeah, and he was like, just like, I've never in my sporting life ever seen like anything of this sort happen. Brother, when have you seen anything of like, I'm not accepting a trophy happen? In fact, मैं like
Just go
Indian
fucking go and
YouTuber का
accept
जो
it then. Like, what the
वो
fuck,
एक
dude?
इंडियन यूट्यूबर का जोक सुना था मैंने बहुत बोलता है कि यार सोचो आप किसी के घर जाओ सही है आप उनके घर जाओ तो वो बंदा आपके पास आए मिठाई लेके आप बोलो मुझे नहीं चाहिए और बंदा वापस जाके फ्रिज में रख दो तो क्या आप बोलोगे ये अजीब आदमी है इसके मिठाई वापस और ये बहुत परफेक्ट जो होता है पूरी सिचुएशन के हिसाब से
Uh,
I think what they were expecting is for Mohsin Naqvi to, I don't know, maybe give it to Ravi Shastri or give it to somebody else to hand over the trophy to end the problem. I think I mean, I think firstly, in the moment when it happened, when they refused to accept the trophy, and Mohsen Naqvi, I think quite rightly probably said, fine, if you don't accept it, then you're not going to get it right now. I think it should probably not have been drawn out. I think realistically, in my opinion on this, is Mohsen Naqvi should have packed it up in a
yeah,
box and couriered it to them in like an hour after
yeah,
the match. I don't think it should have been something
yeah.
that's like, oh, it's lying in the HCC office, come collect it from me. I think what was blown out of proportion was this idea that like, oh, Surya Kumar Yadav has to come and get the trophy from me
Yeah.
himself and all. I don't think that was true. I cannot find any statement made by Mohsen Naqvi that
Uh,
says those lines. I think this is just, I think that's BS. I think what he did say, which he tweeted himself, was that the trophy is at the ACC headquarters and you can come and pick it up. I I think from me, which I think was weird on Mohsin Naqvi's part. भाई मतलब क्या बोल सकते हैं? But yeah, I think ultimately they should have just sent them the trophy. यार ये छोटापन की कोई जरूरत नहीं थी. But having said that, I think we should not forget that this was not an issue that Pakistan started or Mohsin Naqvi started. This was an issue that India started. So you can't play the game of pettiness and then say, oh, why are they winning?
Yeah, but here's my two thoughts. By the way, जो तुम बात कर रहे हो ना स्टेटमेंट्स के ऊपर तो काफी ज्यादा है. Apparently, India Today also tweeted कि Mohsin Naqvi has called up and apologized, which then
Yeah,
was a
Hindustan
very
Times.
embarrassing thing
Or
because
was
then
it India? I don't know.
Mohsin Naqvi himself tweeted कि भाई झूठ तो कम बोलो. But I think overall ये जिस तरह ये as the silliness है ना बस एक लेवल ऊपर जाती रही है, right?
Hmm.
ट्रॉफी ना लेना like ट्रॉफी एक पाकिस्तानी से लेना, यू नॉट शेकिंग हिज हैंड, यू नॉट स्माइलिंग, ठीक है, जो बाकी आपने पूरा कॉन्टेक्ट सेट किया उसे कंटिन्यू करते, आप ले लेते, राइट. वो काफी मुझे सिली लगा. फिर उनका घर बुरा मान के, अच्छा वो पप्पू की तरह कि अच्छा अब बस किसी ने मेरे से बदतमीजी से बात कर दी है, अब मैं घर जा रही हूँ, उसकी तरह ट्रॉफी लेके घर चले जाना. और फिर ये होल दिस charade was pretty childish, to be honest. Because especially I'm thinking, yeah, you have a responsibility. You're not there as a PCB chairman, by the way. You are there as an ACC president, right? And you have a
Yeah.
Exactly.
responsibility
Very
to just
important.
hand it over. यार अगर
Mm-hmm.
पाकिस्तान होस्ट होता, पीसीबी होस्ट होता, वहां पे मैं कहता हूँ यार चलो अपना ईगो फिर ले आओ, राइट. अभी तो आप एसीसी के
नहीं
बंदे
वहां
हो
पे
ना,
भी क्यों ना.
किसी अपने डेप्यूटी चेयरमैन को
Mm-hmm.
दे दो. और सब कुछ हो भी गया था यार, एज आई यू सेड, पैकअप करके बस भेज दो यार, ठीक है, चलो ईगो पे इतना ही लेना है यार, गाइस ठीक है, यू एम्बैरेस्ड मी, I'll not let you have a big trophy celebration in front of the crowd like you deserved. ठीक है, घर पे ले जाओ और अपना फोटोशूट खुद करा लेना, राइट. बिकॉज इवेंचुअली तो होगा ना. आई ऑल्सो डोंट सी व्हाट्स द एंड गेम हियर. क्या करोगे अगले 15 साल तक रख के बैठोगे, क्या सीन है,
Yeah.
राइट.
And by the way, he was really hit by the embarrassment. उसने खुद बोला मोहसिन नकवी ने कि I was standing there like a cartoon. And I'm like, bro, मतलब.
which you
Yeah.
like honestly थोड़ा सोच समझ के बोलना चाहिए. क्यों उनको अहमियत दे रहे हैं? वो बोल रहे हैं हाँ तू है कार्टून.
Exactly ना. और
Like
वो
now
बोल रहे
what
मैं
will
वहां
you do
खड़ा
about
हुआ
the
कार्टून
trolls
बन
here,
रहा हूँ
right?
अभी.
Like
Honest
थोड़ा सोच
मतलब
के बोले यार.
कार्टून भी अजीब सा ना, मतलब करेज द काउडली डॉग वाला कार्टून. भाई तुझे पता है बाहर भूत है भाई. तो तू मतलब
Yeah. I think जो भी हम कह लें, I think ultimately Mohsin Naqvi was in the wrong here.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
a complete, it's just
नहीं, I
unnecessary. Like
think
you are making a bigger
Unnecessary.
issue
No
out of
need
it.
for do any of these things. मतलब
I
आप उसको
think
रेस
moral
करो.
high
both
ground आप अपना, sorry.
मतलब
आई थिंक
such a
बोथ वर
simplistic.
रॉन्ग, बस ये है बोथ वर रॉन्ग. बस दो लिटरली एपिसोड वो लग रही, 5 साल के बच्चे प्लेग्राउंड में लड़ रहे हैं, ऑनेस्टली.
एग्जैक्टली
Yeah.
ब्रो,
बस एक
वही
लोग
बात है ना.
स्टेज पे.
Yeah.
बीसीसीआई के सामने आपने मोहसिन नकवी खड़ा कर दिया. अगर आप शीशे को देख के हंस रहे हो और शीशा पे वापस हंस रहा है, तो वो शीशे की गलती नहीं है ब्रो. यू नो लाइक इट्स जस्ट. आई फुली एग्री विद यू गाइस ऑन दिस. मतलब वो मोहसिन नकवी और इंडिया तो होना चाहिए. दिस इज एंड इज नॉट एंड शुड नॉट बी द पाकिस्तान पोजीशन. आई एम ग्लैड नो प्लेयर हैज कम आउट एंड लाइक कंडोन्ड मोहसिन नकवी, एटलीस्ट टू माय नॉलेज, कि
या
यार ये क्या फिट बंदा है. ओ भाई इसने ट्रॉफी, नो वन हैज डन दैट स्टफ. शायद हारिस रऊफ कर लेता अगर वो 3-4 विकेट ले लेता, लेकिन अल्लाह का शुक्र है वो भी नहीं कर रहा. मतलब
Yeah. I
you know,
think
so there is that positive part to all of this.
the only
Even
one
though
thing I'll
like
say, सॉरी सतार, जस्ट बिफोर यू चाइम इन, मुझे बस थोड़ा सा ये देना था कि आई थिंक एक चीज जो हम एक डिफरेंस नोटिस कर रहे हैं, आई थिंक दिस इज समथिंग यू वांट टू डिस्कस आल्सो, दैट लाइक ओवर टाइम इन पाकिस्तान इंडिया रिलेशंस वी हैव सीन सम रियली बैड टाइम्स, वी हैव सीन द मुंबई अटैक्स, वी हैव सीन सम मेस्ड अप स्टफ, ठीक है,
hmm
लॉट ऑफ व्हिच
hmm
बाय द वे आई एम हैप्पी टू से नहीं सैड टू से दैट पाकिस्तान हैज बीन
yeah, yeah.
एट ऑन द रॉन्ग साइड ऑफ, एंड मतलब उसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है. But I think in this case, when it came to Pahalgam and all of that, I think the global community also, there's no consensus on what's happened and that we are
या
necessarily the bad guys and all that. और आपने उसकी बेसिस पे जंग कर ली, ठीक है, हो गया. Again, I don't want to comment too much on that. But ultimately, I think what the bigger issue is that we saw, we've seen now people like Jay Shah from the Indian side who are heavily involved with not just the BCCI but the ICC. He's the, I think, the general secretary or whatever. And then you've seen Mohsen Naqvi, who is not just a cricket administrator. He is an interior minister who is
Yeah.
also the PCB chairman and ACC का president. Jay Shah also, whose dad is the, I believe, information
Mm-hmm.
minister, interior minister, क्या है वो, I forgot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who's
Home
one of the most
Ministry.
powerful home ministry, sorry, one of the most powerful politicians in India, right?
How is
Like
this possible, by the way?
A Modi
Like
right
with
hand man. So my point is, I think it is actually the involvement of Jay Shah on from their side, and I think probably Mohsin Naqvi from our side, that has taken this into a different level of like sort of cricket politicization, because
Shit,
it's
harshly with.
almost like these guys are not being true to themselves if they are not doing what they are doing. You know what I mean? It's almost like I feel like Mohsin Naqvi, and I don't know how much of this is true, but I'm sure a bunch of the decision making and stuff that has gone into this, the fact that he is interior minister, that he's a representative of the Pakistan government, not just the PCB administration, changes things, I think. And also
It
from the
does.
Indian side, I think just like the kind of like having Jesha as the ICC representative, sorry, general secretary. And I think previously he was the ACC chairman also when we last played. So I think just this whole thing has really messed things up. Yeah, and I would say honestly, the ICC being quiet on this and not having a clearer stance on not being able to politicize, your cricket boards, that should be a thing, yeah. Like, I mean, and I'm saying this as a Pakistani, we should be reprimanded by the ICC for the fact that
Mm-hmm.
our prime minister is appointing our chairman every time, that our current chairman is the interior minister. इस बात पे अगर आप आके हमें कुछ बोल रहे हो, that is an absolutely correct point. Like, I think there
Absolutely.
should be pressure on the Pakistan government to stop doing this stuff, to have an independent PCB that is not like answerable to the government for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, बाय एंड लार्ज बड़ी बिग स्केल पे अगर पॉलिसी है कि हमें इंडिया जाना है, सेफ है या नहीं है, श्योर ऑफ कोर्स योर गवर्नमेंट इज गोना प्ले अ रोल इन दैट, बट इट शुड जस्ट बी दैट, इट शुड जस्ट बी देम एडवाइजिंग or whatever the PCB should be able to make independent decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Same for the BCCI, which I think unfortunately we've somehow come to a point in our lives in Pakistan India history where the BCCI is arguably maybe even more politicized than the PCB. The fact that there is no, like, the fact that the players are being instructed to not shake hands, to not accept
Mm-hmm.
trophies, to do all that stuff, that is a whole new level of politicization. And it's something that we have never seen previously. I mean, even during the worst halat, when the India government said we
RKL
will
and all
not
of
play
those things.
Pakistan, or we will not allow them to come to India, or we will not go to Pakistan. We've seen that happen for ages. 2011 mein jo World Cup hua tha, that was also under some very like dubious political circumstances. And even since then, it's not really gotten better, maybe some, except for some few years. And yet teams have gone, they've met each other, they've been perfectly happy. I think Vamu, you were talking about this earlier. With like Kohli and Bumrah, sorry, Shaheen and Bumrah exchanging gifts. I think he got him something for his baby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the players have always been fine. You could always see these images of Haris Rauf talking to Kohli and these sort of things. But like all this was part of the game, and I think that was something that actually felt good. As a Pakistani,
Yeah.
कि ultimately यार अब जितने भी as on a country level आपको मसला हो, ultimately हम लोग तो बहुत similar हैं यार. And so like on a personal
Yeah.
level, why you would take it to the point where like these sports people have to on a personal level have issues? That's just sad, and I think that's ruining the game. I don't think that
Mm-hmm.
should happen. And yes, Pakistan has done a lot of things wrong, even in this scenario, but ultimately, I think that responsibility falls on India and the BCCI and the Indian government who has asked them to do this sort of behavior.
वैसे I
Also,
have a
just
thought.
to add on to
मस्कर
what
पगले
Abhishek was
रुलाएगा
saying, I
क्या?
think मुझे एक चीज ऐड करनी है. मैंने ये किसी इंडियन को ही बोलते हुए सुना है. I'm forgetting right now, but like some kind of not a political actor. Khair, can't remember. Let me just do a quick search as well. But he was referring to the fact कि पाकिस्तान और इंडिया के literally जब कारगिल का मसला चल रहा था,
Mm-hmm.
on the
Yeah.
day of, Pakistan and India played a World Cup match, shook hands, did all the niceties. So it's really like क्रॉसिंग ए सॉर्ट ऑफ लाइन. अच्छा, इंडिया की जो रेटरिक है ना, इंटरेस्टिंगली वो जो वहां के साइड के मैंने जितने भी अभी ट्वीट्स वगैरह देखे हैं, I've seen people talking like us as well, trying to remove politics from all of it and calling their side out, calling our side out fairly. But वहां पे ये सूर्या कुमार और जय शाह, एक तरीके
Mm-hmm.
से उनकी हीरो वर्शिप भी हो रही है कि जो काम कभी कांग्रेस ने नहीं किया, बीजेपी वो
Mm.
कर रही है.
Yeah.
एंड एब्सोल्युटली फक पाकिस्तान, एंड कांग्रेस इज ऑलवेज जस्ट टू नाइस इनफ. तो ये पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है कि हमारे मकसद की बात हो रही है. तो
Exactly.
एक एक वो पहलू भी है वहां पे कि उनको जितनी यहाँ पे रेजिस्टेंस हो रही है इस मामले में, वहां पे तो इस बात पे ज्यादा एक्सेप्टेंस ही हो रही है कि
Mm.
फाइनली किसी ने पाकिस्तान को फक यू बोल दिया. बड़ा मजा आया.
Yeah, to be fair,
यार
यहाँ पे मोहसिन नकवी के साथ भी ये हो रहा है, sort of like you'll see open a cricket for comment
हाँ
section and you'll may see everyone making jokes about हाँ जीत तो गए लेकिन ट्रॉफी कहाँ है, like it's
Lekin,
so
the moment Mohsen Naqvi stands onto the political field, the public opinion changes. मतलब उसकी politics में तुम्हें बहुत ज़्यादा criticism मिलेगा from many of the same people. और इन्हीं tweets में जिन tweets की तुम जिनको refer कर रहे हो उनमें भी तुम्हें मिलेगा कि हाँ we hate this guy लेकिन हाँ 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 क्या इसने funny हरकत की है
इंडिया
मतलब
इंडिया की ले ली वैसे
that
ही मजा आया।
हाँ that
हम्म जबकि
decoupling
ली
does
नहीं है बाय द
absolutely
वे, लेकिन
exist.
खैर सत्तार सॉरी
हाँ
मोहसिन।
मतलब
हाँ
वो खुद
so
बेवकूफ
I think just थोड़ा सा bouncing off what each of you has said, right? एक तो जो अब्दुल्ला बात करता है the political figures getting involved, right? How that's affected, and history. Like you guys were saying कि यार अब ये players different है और Mamu you said right कि कोहली के टाइम पे नहीं होता। आई जस्ट वांट से यार इतने टाइम पुरानी बात नहीं है जब प्लेयर्स बिल्कुल फील्ड पे ठीक होते थे और यही सूर्य कुमार यादव था और यही हार्दिक पांड्या था। यू विल हैव सीन मीम्स जो हार्दिक इज हगिंग रिजवान, राइट, एंड यही बुमराह इज कमिंग एंड आस्किंग अबाउट शाहीन इंजरी पोस्ट द 22 वर्ल्ड कप एंड हाउ ही हैज रिकवर्ड। I don't have a particular reference to what Sky has done, but generally बहुत amicable होता था, and this is what, and I think what all of you are also saying, थोड़ा सा बस वो as a cricket fan, right? Not as a patriot or a nationalist, as a cricket fan, बस थोड़ा सा मेरे लिए बड़ा disappointing रहा है. Because yeah, as you said, Kargil World के दौरान we played the 99. By the way, the match that I referred to, the highest attendance ever,
है।
that was right after Kargil. That was 1999
Yeah.
Asian Test Championships. So उस टाइम पे भी वही हालात थे. 2011 World Cup he played. और there's numerous instances like even 80s में चले जाओ तो जब भी वॉर, बल्कि इनफैक्ट क्रिकेट डिप्लोमेसी was coined as a term for India Pakistan relationship because जब बॉर्डर पे कोई मसला होता था आपस में यार बायलैटरल खिला लो, थोड़ा सा सब कुछ ठंडा हो जाता था. Zia coming and watching the match with the Indian
Mm-hmm.
PM at that time, like there's numerous instances. And for me, चलो यार ठीक है, politics aside, as a cricket fan and as someone who has met countless Indians and were genuinely nice people and all of this, like मुझे personally एक बहुत ज्यादा hope मिलती थी, right? Seeing those guys like be very amicable and be very friendly to each other on the field, because मुझे लगता था, some part of me believed कि यार enough people see this ना तो सब थोड़ा ठीक हो जाएगा, सब थोड़ा ठंडे हो जाएंगे, राइट? इवन दो आई नो एट दैट टाइम भी बड़ा एक दोनों साइड्स ऑफ द बॉर्डर में बड़ा ही आता था कि यार क्या एक दूसरे से गले लग रहे हो, एज इफ समहाउ वी आर एक्सपेक्टेड टू गो एंड शूट ईच अदर ऑफ. वो होता था ना, कुछ टॉक्सिक लोग आते थे, एक्स क्रिकेटर्स आल्सो बड़े पॉपुलर थे. वन ऑफ देम इज नाउ कोच ऑफ अ सर्टेन टीम. तो एनीवे, तो बड़ा पॉजिटिव फील होता था. इवन 2023 वर्ल्ड कप में, आई डोंट नो इफ यू गाइस रिमेंबर, वो जो वॉश्ड आउट मैच हुआ था एशिया कप में हैम्बन टूटा में, आई डोंट नो वेयर इट वाज, एंड
शाहीन ने आकर इसमें
वो
फुल
सारे एक दूसरे को बढ़ा कर रहे थे. इवन लाइक बड़ा एक पॉपुलर ट्रेंड चला था शादाब एंड विराट का, जो सारी मीम्स आ रही थी, आंटी शादाब को बाहर खाना भेज रहे, आई वंडर शादाब ने खाना खाया होगा या नहीं खाया होगा, राइट? तो दैट वाज अ वेरी फनी टाइम फॉर मी कि यार मतलब ये लोग आपस में. एंड बाय द वे देयर इज टन्स ऑफ इंसिडेंट्स. ईशांत शर्मा द अदर डे आई सॉ हिज इंटरव्यू वेयर ही वाज लाइक कि यार 2005 की सीरीज में बिकॉज़ ही वाज अ पार्ट, इज लाइक यार पाकिस्तान ने हमारा इतना ख्याल रखा. And one of the things he mentioned, because he also said the same, right? कि यार इंडिया ऑस्ट्रेलिया, इंग्लैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया से जब हमारी सीरीज होती है ना तो हम थोड़ा एक्स्ट्रा लड़ते हैं उनसे, बिकॉज वो लोग स्लेच करते हैं, वो लोग जर्नली बस हमें अच्छे ह्यूमन बींग्स नहीं लगते. विद पाकिस्तान इट्स डिफरेंट, बिकॉज ऑन द फील्ड तो ऑब्वियसली एक होता है कि यार अक्रॉस द बॉर्डर वालों को फोड़ना है, बट ऑफ द फील्ड हम लोग यही रियलाइज करते थे कि यार हम खाने सेम खाते हैं, लैंग्वेजेस हमारी कॉमन है, कल्चर्स हमारे कॉमन है. सो इट्स लाइक ही वाज सेइंग कि यार it was so much easier to blend in with Pakistan and hang out with them. And there's so much, like everyone who came on the 2005 tour has spoken very fondly of that. हम जब 2012 में last गए थे, everyone spoke very fondly. Even 2023 World Cup में we saw how
When Junaid Khan got
the
pulled.
entire team was Junaid Khan got the Indian team basically, and
Yes.
Nasser Jamshed got like 2 centuries on the trot.
Yeah.
Uh, was fun series. 2020 World Cup, the entire team was the way they were greeted. Babar and Rohit sharing, like, so, I can spend like probably 2 hours on all the examples. So, but mainly personally, what a disappointing or how everything, that thing that was supposed to be a reason for hope, a place for where people could see beyond what was being fed to them by the media, अब वो पूरा narrative has taken over.
spilled over.
एंड यही लोग जो एक साल पहले 2024 वर्ल्ड कप में न्यूयॉर्क में भी यार ये सारे बहुत अच्छे सब कुछ कर रहे थे. इट्स द सेम प्लेयर्स, बस एक इंसिडेंट ऊपर से बोला जा रहा है, दे आर सेइंग इट. So I do hope it becomes better. And this also leads me, I just want to sort of hand over to you guys. काफी ज्यादा लंबा monologue हो गया मेरा. It's also what Aga said in his post match, right? About idols, right? And I think I fully agreed with him on the post match कि यार हम what are we showing to the young boys at home जो कि बैठ के देख रहे हैं.
Mm-hmm.
This is who their idols are, right? And I'm sure the people who were 10, 12-year old watching all the friendly relationships on the field, उनके बारे में अच्छा होगा. और आज वो देख रहे हैं कि यार इनसे तो हाथ भी नहीं मिलाना. तो all the young kids at home, उनके लिए क्या idols क्रिएट हो रहे हैं, क्या values क्रिएट हो रही हैं. So obviously it's a very dangerous precedent. Uh, and yeah, that's my sort of summation on this.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I fully agree. A very, very disappointing, very unfortunate situation. खैर क्या कर सकते हैं मतलब my take on this a little bit is, like just to get away from I mean, I guess the main politics of it all is that there's been situations like so you guys, I don't know if you remember, Subbu, you might remember, Satar, you might, in 2012, when this Luis Suarez and Patrice Evra issue happened,
Of
when
course. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Evra was racist towards them, and they had a
yeah.
match. I think it was in February 2012, and it was Man United versus Liverpool, and this was Suarez in the form of his life. I think he had come back from his ban or not. I'm not sure if he had been banned yet, but
Mm-hmm.
they lined up, and as they always do, teams shake hands before the match. And I think when it came to Evra, Suarez pulled his hand back and said, "I'm not going to shake your hand." And then became a big issue where Evra sort of like pulled his hand and all of that, and
That was after the
and then
other incident as well, right? That's sort of like
that was after the first incident, yeah,
snowballed.
of the first incident, yeah. Just he was racist towards Evra.
Mm-hmm.
And then Evra, yeah, and he refused to shake Evra's hand despite, and Evra came out and talked about this in an interview also about how difficult it was for him to actually extend his hand to have, to shake it, because, but then, he'd been advised that since this issue has already been over and that Suarez has been punished and all of that, you should be the bigger man and do it. And he said that even though I was the bigger man and I put my hand out there to shake his hand, he still didn't shake it, and that was so disappointing. And uske baad Rio Ferdinand also refused to shake Suarez's hand
Mm-hmm.
in solidarity or whatever. But I think what I remember about that whole scene, because I remember watching this and I was so angry, like, because I mean, you're just like, obviously because I'm a United fan mainly, but also because it's wrong, yeah. Like it just feels off. Like it's like there's just no reason to do that and bring that into
Yeah, like this.
sport. But
Mm-hmm.
but what happened at the end of that game was that Man United won that game, and it almost felt like it's fine because we won, and ultimately, he can not shake hands with whoever he wants. But if you're going to lose on the football pitch, then it's all wasted. And there's various examples of this. One other one that comes to my mind is, I don't know if you guys seen Rocky 3, but there was this the Clubber Lang character who was played by Mr. T at the time, and he was this like bad mouthing guy, and he was abusing Rocky's wife and all that, and just like not unsportsmanlike behavior constantly. And he goes and he somehow wins that first match against Rocky, and then Rocky comes back, and he's got all this like moral high ground as well as
Mm-hmm.
like all of that stuff going for him, and he goes and he wins, and he's this big.
Americanism
Yeah, I
of
mean, apart from
of
the
his
Americanism
spirit.
of it all, I mean, there's other examples. There was also a Mike Tyson match. I forgot who it was against, like back in the day, but like in which Mike Tyson had come out, and this was when Mike Tyson was in his prime, and he'd been sledging and saying all sorts of disgusting stuff, personal stuff, all this.
Mm-hmm.
Refused to shake his hand at the at a their, what do you call that thing when they like both on the, anyway,
Yeah, the
and
showdown and all that. Yeah.
yeah, and
The
showdown,
There's
all that.
Wayne
actually
era, right?
one. There's actually one handshake that you're missing, Handshake-gate, which was
Wait,
uh,
let's get
okay.
there. But
Which
ultimately,
one?
my
Which one?
my you're talking about John Terry, right? Yeah.
Wayne Brady, yeah.
That that I'll allow. But anyway, that I'll
That
allow.
I remember. I feel like that.
Serious.
I mean,
But anyway, but anyway,
it's
my point is that in all of these instances, the thing that even with Mike Tyson lost that fight. Rocky won that fight, and Man United beat Liverpool that day.
Mhm.
I think what was saddest
Rocky's
about all of
also a movie,
this,
by
I
the
think
way.
what was
I don't know if
saddest
you.
about all of this was that like India refused to shake our hands. They won that match. Second match happens, they're not shaking our hands at the toss, they're not shaking our hands after the game. All sorts of stuff is happening on social media. We've got like politicians involved. It's a bad environment to be in. Um, and just from a narrative perspective, like I just felt like the only thing that was missing was a Pakistan win, and I think that was most that for
Yeah,
me personally, what was most unfortunate about this whole thing was not that, chalo, yeah, fine, bad sportsman spirit from India and all
Yeah,
that, bad for the game, but just I think the most disappointing aspect of it all was that we could not get a win. I think that if we I think everything was ready, everything was prepared for us to go and win that final, and that would have been it. I think we would have. I think Mohsin Naqvi would have been
yeah.
happy to let like someone else give them the trophy or whatever. And I just think that, like, I don't know. I just feel like it's just sad that we weren't able to turn that around and use that, like as fuel to go and win that match. I think if we had done that, I think none of this would have mattered. I think this would have been a different conversation altogether. But
Hmm.
ultimately, it's just sad that the
Uh,
bully team, the people who were being the bad guys in this narrative, which for me, honestly, I don't see how you can look at this from any objective lens and say that India is not the bad guy here.
hmm,
So just for them to also then go and win 3-0, it just feels like,
थोड़ा
yeah, it's a
poetic
it's a
justice रह गई.
sucker punch. बहुत गंदी रह गई.
It's
Yeah,
okay. Getting stabbed from both
just
sides. That's true.
नहीं,
just
yeah.
feels like
नहीं,
अभी तुमने sorry.
Which, by the way, how do you feel about this entire like the counter narrative of like, how about both teams try and fix themselves and not do this, guys? Shake hand, please. This is Pakistan India issue and stuff like that. You know, all the entire narrative that both
I
teams have equal responsibility and equal imparts. You know,
I
need to be
mean,
I
accountable.
mean,
Yeah, not bad.
only one team went inside and locked their locker rooms. So like, क्या घसीट के नहीं बाहर लाएंगे ना?
they did that.
Yeah, first
Yeah, the
game.
first match.
What do you mean they locked the locker rooms?
Like basically they went straight in and locked the locker room. And basically the narrative was in case Pakistan tried to walk inside the locker room.
Why would they do that? Is that like a thing that happens? They walk in.
भाई आपने
I mean,
पाकिस्तान वाला कमरा देखा है?
in friendly relations, so yes, now because I told you guys I watched Pakistan Afghanistan and that was very friendly. So Pakistan people were going inside Afghanistan locker rooms, मतलब,
Right, right,
where
just
I
to chill.
think permission is granted for sure.
Yeah,
Chill
but like
करने
with
चले
fucking
जाएंगे.
consent, right? Like
Yeah,
why do
yeah,
we just look like fucking creeps कि हम दरवाजे खोल के अंदर चले जाते हैं?
अगली
Bro,
दफा बाहर एक वीजा ऑफिसर बैठाएंगे ये वीजा के लिए अप्लाई करना
कुंडी लगा जल्दी आगे के लड़के आ रहे हैं.
ये
yeah,
सही रोक
yeah.
लिया.
I don't know. I feel like this has created a dangerous precedent. I feel like
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean specifically India Pakistan की तो अब अगले हर sport में ये घुसेगा. Uh, Not that it didn't already exist to a certain degree after the war, and especially अब तो मतलब ये हो अब कहीं भी मिलेंगे कोई चेस का मैच होगा तो उससे पहले भी ऐसी वॉर टाइप सिचुएशन बनाएंगे आप फोड़ देंगे तुम्हें which is
मास्टर
it's
शेफ में
sad.
खड़े हैं दोनों.
It's sad, it's unfortunate, but I feel like it is what it is, and I feel like for now I'm ready to move on from cricket.
Mhm.
Generally in life, not just
Yeah.
this podcast. Just generally मेरे को ऐसा फील आ रहा है कि अभी
लेकिन
अगले
तुम
2-4 साल
ब्रो
मुझसे
तुम
ना हो पाएगा.
हर 3 महीने बाद तुम ये बोलते हो bro. मैं तुमसे
मेरी
सुन
बात
के
सुनो,
थक गया.
मैं पिछले पूरा 1.5 साल क्रिकेट से दूर रहा हूँ. ये अब ये सिचुएशन ऐसी हुई थी, ये भी तो हरामी है ना, आधा अच्छा खेलते हैं आप टीवी पे खोल के, and then they start to fuck it up. So that's what's happened to me. Like I did not watch the first match. I was looking at the second match दूर दूर से, तुम लोग की चैट पढ़ रहा था. I was like, okay, you're doing something, and
We were, to be honest.
unfortunate.
We
तो
were.
basically Vamo did what
अब्दुल्ला ने
apparently every Indian fan did, right? कि पहला मैच नहीं देखा, दूसरा मैच दूर दूर से स्कोर देखते
yeah.
रहे. जब देखना नहीं
तीसरा
है, तीसरा वाला
मैच
तो
में
देखते हैं यार. अब तो सिनेमा में जाके देखेंगे.
अच्छा पहले वाले में खुशी बहुत हुई थी कि जलील हो गए, हार तो गए हैं लेकिन अभी कोई इंडियन हमें ट्रोल नहीं करेगा, वरना हम बोलेंगे बॉस बॉयकॉट का क्या होना. So at least we had that
फिर
protection.
तो
But by
मोदी के
the last
ट्वीट्स आ
match,
रहे
all
हैं
bets were
भाई.
off.
Bro,
ये
By the
मोदी
way,
आप
कह रहा है
just
कह रहे हैं
कि
मोदी साहब, आपने आपने बॉयकॉट
मोदी
किया
कह
है।
रहा है देवर सोल्जर्स ऑन द फील्ड, वहां स्काई बोल रहा है मोदी फ्रंट फुट पे खेल रहा है भाई। तुम लोग सियासत में जंग करते हो, जंग में सियासत करते हो, क्या चल रहा
टू
है
बी
भाई?
फेयर, हम भी सियासत में क्रिकेट तो बहुत खेलते
तो
हैं।
हाँ
हम कौन सी मिसाल है? व्हाई आर
हम
वी द गोल्ड
फुटबॉल खेलते हैं।
स्टैंडर्ड?
हाँ
हम सियासत खेलते हैं
हमारी
बीच में
स्कोर
थोड़ी
लाइन
सी
फुटबॉल
क्रिकेट
वाली
बोल
होती है।
जाते हैं।
Anyway, my point, one thing I wanted to say also was, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there's been this conversation over the last year, 2 years, I don't remember exactly when, but about England saying that they're going to boycott matches against Afghanistan, and their logic was that because of the Taliban government in
no
Afghanistan and the fact that they don't allow women's sports and women to go to school and all
Mhm.
that, they wanted to take a principled stand against it and say we're not going to play Afghanistan. As far as I remember, ICC's response to that was, I guess you can do that, but you'll have to forfeit those matches.
yeah
Um, why what I don't understand is, like, if anything, I mean, I think Afghanistan being run by a Taliban government where actually women cannot go to school, women are they have, I think they जो भी उनकी women's team शायद थोड़ी बहुत थी भी या वो बन रहा था कुछ, वो उन्होंने कैंसिल कर दिया जो भी प्रोग्राम था उसका. um, so what I've never understood is how come the response to England's statement is
Hmm.
okay, you can forfeit that match, versus when India says it, like, and I know this is not an actual ICC tournament, so it's not comparable, but do you guys remember that Legends tournament that happened in which, like, the
Refused to
Indian
play because of
Indian team
Shahid
refused to
Afridi.
play, not because
Mm-hmm.
of Shahid Afridi, because it was Pakistan.
Then?
It wasn't
yeah
just Shahid
because of
Afridi,
Pakistan.
and
No, no. What? Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
it had
Pakistan.
nothing to do with Shahid
It
Afridi.
was
It was the Pakistan 11,
Then
so
why was
obviously it
Shahid
was not
Afridi
just.
standing up like on the
because he was the
balcony?
Both of he
captain.
was there. He was the captain. Anyway, but my point was that, like, just that, I don't know. I just feel like it's being received completely differently. Like, I mean, I think there's no doubt, and I think we can all agree on this, that, like, we are not worse than Afghanistan, guys. Like, I mean, on
Yeah,
any
हाँ
level,
तो
like, matlab, so just
Not
to.
even in cricket.
And I think the fact is, like, ultimately India can call us a terrorist state as much as they want, but we are not a terrorist state.
We are the biggest
we
victims
have
of
done
terrorism,
we
I
have
have to say.
वो एक अलग वो तो खैर that's true, but I think ultimately बात ये है कि हमने even for Pahalgam there's no evidence. Honestly, if there were any evidence, मैं खुद यहाँ पे खुला होके बोल सकता हूँ कि I would have condemned it. I would have said कि, and by the way, Pakistanis are extremely critical of their government, and by which I mean extremely, right? Like, especially this current government, and the army. You go as far to say that
but
as well, right? Extremely critical, but to the point that if you open Twitter, or if you open a comment section anywhere, you will find कि गालियों पे गालियां दी जा रही हैं इन लोगों को. No one agrees with their policies, thinks they are bad people, etc. Blah blah blah. So what I've never understood is, why is India's issue with Pakistan on the sporting field by the international community not seen as what it
Mhm.
is, which is ultimately them just being bullies about it, and using the fact that they have so much power in the ICC because of and undeniably the fact that they are 20 times as rich as the next richest board. So I don't know. I would just really like to
इसमें I
see
think
some
my
more
take
solidarity.
yeah, so मेरा take इसमें is again referring back to the way political figures taking up this key post, right? Again, Mohsin Iraqi forgot that he was the ACC president and not Pakistan's interior ministry standing up on
Yeah.
that podium. I think Jash has also forgotten that he is not Home Minister's son managing cricket. He is the ICC president. And which is why it was very easy
Secretary, I
England को
think.
कह कहा यार वो Usman Khwaja writing against a genocide on his shoes was
Yeah.
immediately called out for कि यार ये political statements नहीं होनी चाहिए. There were other instances also, which
To
चलो
be
मैं कह रहा
fair,
हूँ principal stance ले लिया.
Sky was also fine for his
But,
Yeah,
statement.
नहीं,
So
but no, but here's the thing, right? What took a matter of few hours, like literally, Usman Khwaja on day one of the test wrote, by lunch he was reprimanded for it. By
yeah,
next day he had taken them off. Right? That
yeah.
was very quick. भाई सीधा एक precedent set कर दिया यार कि ठीक है जो भी चल रहा है अच्छा बुरा, politics does not belong in the sport.
Even
With
though
India
that wasn't
Pakistan, it took
political,
like
I would
By the
argue.
way, I don't know. This might be a separate thing, maybe on a different podcast, not a sporting podcast altogether. I don't fuck with this opinion. I feel like politics could be a part of anything.
and
I think it depends.
on
I
that
think it
note,
depends.
exactly, I have a
I
no,
think
question.
it
I
no,
have a question
depends.
to ask. I have a question to ask. I mean, so I understand that you guys do not agree with this, but Spain recently has there are, I mean, at least reports coming out that they don't want to participate in the Football World Cup if Israel is participating. Does your opinion
yeah.
change there, or do you guys feel the exact same way?
No, because they're willing to
नहीं नहीं
put themselves on the line. I'm saying if you are willing to say that and say that, you know what, we will take the L, we will
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah, yeah, yeah.
participate, we are
अच्छा
willing to forego the points, willing to forego winning a
That's
tournament,
true.
then dude, power to you. You have the balls to take a principled stand. I'm with
Mm-hmm.
you on this. I think I think India would have been far better off if they had said, yeah, we believe genuinely
Yeah,
that Pakistan
exactly.
is a terrorist
That was
state.
the
We
argument.
will not play with
Mm-hmm.
them, even if it means that we get disqualified, even if it means that we lose points. Regardless, we will simply
हाँ
not play. I think if you have that policy, you know what? I may not agree with it, but I respect it. I think here, what they've done is that they want to have their cake and eat it too, and I think that's just wrong.
yeah, just going back to that original point, right? So, Mamu, so by the way, I personally, I think, yes, you're right. There needs to be a discussion on politics belongs in the sport or not. Nuances हैं उसके, and would love to have a discussion. But I'm saying in this matter, ICC took a stance. Agree with
Oh,
it, disagree
100%,
with it, whatever.
100%.
You
So
took a stance. यहाँ
I
पे
agree.
problem ये है
I
कि
agree.
they took 2 weeks to penalize Rauf and Farhan and Sky
Yeah, yeah.
over their comments, which would have taken a matter of hours. And यहाँ
100%.
पे भी वही है ना कि as
Farhan
ICC they
wasn't
should say
penalized,
कि
by
यार
the way.
भाई तुम्हारा
Just
Farhan was
He
warning.
was
reprimanded
reprimanded.
at least.
He was
Yeah.
He
reprimanded.
was
He
reprimanded,
was given
right?
a warning. Yeah, that's
So
true.
Yeah.
yeah, and ICC again has taken like a huge amount of time and not like पूरा जो आपने मजाक बना रखा है because again the guy in question is thinking as a minister's son and not the the head of the organizational body. But anyway, so I think mere concluding thoughts, I'll just put them down and then hand over to you guys, and maybe then we
Mm-hmm.
can wrap up. I think मुझे overall, so I think we've discussed how unfortunate this is, what it means for the sport at large. Actually, I might have slipped my thoughts, so I'm going to hand over to you guys and come back to me. जब थोड़ा structure कर लूँ मैं बिल्कुल भूल
Since
गया मैं.
I'm talking about things that are not specific, I'm sorry, मुझे एक बात याद आ गई. I agree with what you were saying. My point is that when we buy into the argument that sports doesn't belong, politics doesn't belong to sports. So all of my argument today were based on that fact. If you're living in that world, तो वही वाली बात आ जाती है. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
By the way, also a very weird kind of saying, because why else would you have cake? That also sounds like something for another podcast. But क्या कहते हैं? But like I think it
केक
on
तेरा
a
है तू खा नहीं
principles.
सकता.
नहीं, लेकिन
No,
खा
on a
लोगे तो तुम्हारा रहेगा नहीं ना, तुम्हारे पेट में चला
Exactly.
जाएगा.
That
That's the
like,
point.
yeah, that's the point.
ये बहुत ज्यादा अंग्रेजी में जाके को बात हुई है
नहीं कि मुझे केक
भाई.
चाहिए भी मुझे खाना मतलब yeah.
या
यार
तो
Exactly.
खा
चाहिए
लो या
किसलिए,
फ्रिज में
क्योंकि
रख
मुझे
लो.
अच्छा
खाना है ना यार. मैं ये
अच्छा
कैसे सोच रहा
अच्छा
हूँ?
मुझे थॉट याद आ गया. मुझे थॉट याद आ गया. So मेरा कंक्लूडिंग थॉट एसेंशियली ये है कि आई
मुझे मुझे याद
सही है
आ
ना यार.
गया
देखो सीपी लगानी होती है. तो
अभी वापस दम रह जाएगा ना
तो आई थिंक मेरा बस ये कि ओवरऑल सही है, अनफॉर्चुनेट एटसेट्रा. आई जस्ट होप ठीक है. देखो गवर्नमेंट्स आर डूइंग व्हाट दे आर डूइंग विद वेरी पॉलिटिकल इंटेंशंस. मेरा आई जस्ट होप दो होप्स है मेरी. एक होप मेरी ये है कि people on both sides of the border, I hope they're able to see through their bullshit. I hope they're able to see this whole
Mhm.
facade was created ताकि हम पैसा भी बना सकें, बट हम लोगों को बेच भी सकें कि यार हम टेररिस्ट से हाथ नहीं मिलाते और हम उनसे खेलते नहीं है. एंड बस वो स्टेप अप होता रहा. इवन ऑन दिस साइड द होल थिंग ऑन ईगो पे लेना, बॉयकॉट एटसेट्रा, ऑल ऑफ दिस वाज ताकि घर पे बस कुछ बेच सकें कि अच्छा यार, क्योंकि बात वो बन रही थी ना कि यार सामने वाले तुम्हारी इतनी बेइज्जती कर रहे हैं, तुम क्या कर रहे हो उसके बारे में. तो देन समथिंग हैड टू बी डन और हमने भी कुछ ड्रामे करने थे. सो आई होप पीपल everywhere are smart enough to see through that and call for actual accountability कि अगर करना है राइट तो करो थ्रू राइट मैनर्स, करो थ्रू प्रिंसिपल स्टांस करो. अगर मानते हो एक्चुअली टेररिस्ट स्टेशन है तो फिर बिल्कुल अवॉइड करो.
Yeah,
तो
I guess.
और या फिर लाइक वही आई थिंक एवरीवन हैज सेड द सेम थिंग. एंड
Mhm.
ओवरऑल आई जस्ट होप कि द नेक्स्ट टाइम वी डिस्कस थोड़ा टाइम क्रिकेट, आई एग्री विद मामू, थोड़ा टाइम क्रिकेट की बात अब नहीं करते. थोड़ा टाइम किसी और अगली एपिसोड में कुछ और बातें करते हैं. बट आई होप बाय द टाइम हम अगले टूर्नामेंट्स आ रहे हैं, अगली सीरीज आ रही है, आई होप थिंग्स टर्न आउट फॉर द बेटर. एंड अगेन दीज गाइस टर्न आउट टू बी बेटर आइडल्स फॉर पीपल ऑल अराउंड. एंड इन अ वर्ल्ड जहाँ पे यार हमारे आर्टिस्ट एक दूसरे के साथ काम नहीं कर रहे, म्यूजिशियंस काम नहीं कर रहे, पॉलिटिशियंस नहीं काम कर रहे, तो लगता है कि ट्रेड बुरे हैं, सब कुछ बुरा है. आई थिंक क्रिकेट वो एक लास्ट सॉर्ट ऑफ एक ग्लिमरिंग होप मेरे लिए एटलीस्ट बचा था कि अच्छा यार यहाँ पे एटलीस्ट थोड़ा सा हाथ में लाके एक दूसरे के साथ खड़े हुए एंड मे बी होप
Mhm.
क्रिएट हो रही है. अब वो एक लास्ट फोरम भी चला गया है, तो अब तो पूरा ब्रीडिंग ग्राउंड बन गया है टू अस अगेंस्ट देम का. सो आई होप ये इन चीजों से बाहर आ जाए. दैट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ माय फाइनल टेक्स ऑन दिस.
Yeah, 100% difficult to
Um,
add to that. Exactly. I mean, so I mean, Hope that comes true. If that does not, I
Yeah,
agree. कोई
agreed.
और चीज ढूंढते हैं. बहुत हो गया
Agreed.
cricket.
I
Yeah.
do think there'll be better times. I do think there'll be better times. I think we are two countries on the way to prosperity.
Bro,
I mean, I think so.
I
I would
think,
say I
yeah.
think I just hope I think for both countries that smarter people prevail. We know that on both
Hmm.
sides there are people who are intelligent, say the right things, and understand that there is more nuance to things than they make it seem. So बस एक चीज मैं मेरी ये रिक्वेस्ट होगी if there's any Indian watching that like please understand that whatever issues you have with a government of a country, they should not filter down to the individual people in that country. Nobody goes into the Pakistan cricket team thinking they are representing the Pakistan state or the policies of the Pakistan state or anything that they do. So even if you think that that's wrong, you have to appreciate the fact that these players are not out there representing Pakistan in the same way that Rashid Khan is not representing women not going to school for Afghanistan. The ultimate truth is that these are players who have worked their whole life to be where they are. And I mean, whether they win or they lose, they try really hard, they train, they put in the hours to play a game that they try to be good at. And I think you should respect that while there must be a Pakistan team and an India team and all that, that's fine. But ultimately, there are 11 or 12 players on the field who are going and playing a match. And I think just like in any school ground, just like in any match ever, yeah, you respect the fact that they came out and played a match with you. You shake their hand, you say, well played, and you leave. And I think this is one thing that's like taught to you on a more basic level. Like when you're 12 years old and you're playing school football, school cricket, आपका coach आपको कहता है कि यार whether you win, lose, you get embarrassed, आप game में जितनी गालियां दो एक दूसरे को, end of the game you go, you shake hands with the opposite team, you say well played, GG, good game, see you next time. Because that's just I mean, that's the spirit of sport. And I think जो भी बाकी चीजें हों, बस ये नहीं भूलना चाहिए हमें. So yeah,
Yeah, नहीं, difficult to add anything to what you guys said for sure.
No, no,
बस
100%. 100%.
मैं बोलता हूँ boys,
It's
next मतलब
a
I'm
good
already
one.
I've moved on. I've moved on. I agree with you guys. Next prequel for next
Right.
episode. Boys,
and Mohsin
So I think
please,
Pakistan,
yeah, trophy wins on that.
Pakistan, Pakistan, yeah, for sure. लेकिन पाकिस्तान बीच हैंडबॉल, देखो पहले तो बीच हैंडबॉल कुछ होता है, दूसरा पाकिस्तान वो खेलता है, तीसरा उसमें 15 गोल है इंडिया के, 7 आगे, मैं बता रहा हूँ, और उसमें घुसते हैं, नेक्स्ट टाइम रिसर्च करके आते हैं, and we're talking about that. Beach handball, stay
नहीं
tuned.
मैं कह रहा हूँ अगले
if
स्पोर्ट
you
पे
have
बढ़ते हैं
watched
और पाकिस्तान इंडिया से भी थोड़ा
uh,
आगे बढ़ते हैं.
Of
so
course.
एक दुनिया में
I
एक ही
was
कंट्री
gonna
नहीं
come
है.
to that. If you have watched this far, thank you. But
Imagine if they
वो league
didn't,
the
they
sport
just
is a
skipped to
lot
the last two
about
seconds.
if you if you okay, and but we are a lot more about sports. So I think next we're gonna go be posting on Sunday, post the F1 race because hard to believe, but हम बहुत ज़्यादा sports देखते हैं beyond cricket. So that's content that you can expect. And just on that note, what both teams should have said on that given day, but did not. On our part, GG boys, well done. And
All right,
on that note, have a good night.
see you guys later. Bye bye.
See you, bye.
Carry on.